Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Collective podcast.
Yay!
And we're here again today, Lucy, with the lovely Emily.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be
Emily.
here.
How
Thanks
are you
for
today?
tuning in. Really good, thank you.
Good. Shining brightly as always, aren't you?
We try, don't we?
We
We try.
So today we are going to be talking on a very powerful topic about energy protection. And cord cutting, because it's so important. And again, how that is important in day-to-day life, but also for keeping us in authenticity on our spiritual path as well. So it is just such an important part of anybody's life, really, to be aware and have this a different level of awareness, I think, about our energy. And I first want to kick off with my vision for how people see their energy moving forward, especially on the spiritual path, is really what we want to align with is raising our frequency to the point where we don't really feel we need to protect our energy anymore, where we're so strong and aligned in our vibrational frequency that we've raised our frequency to the point where we no longer align with lower vibrational frequencies. So
That's the dream.
that's the goal, right? And it takes some practice getting there. And so really that's what today is about. So why do we feel that we need to protect our energy? Well, that's because we want to change the experience that we're having. You know, we don't want to have the lower vibrational experiences in this life. This is where we really are mastering our energy and becoming the masters of our reality. So if we are saying, I need to protect my energy, I need to protect my energy from a place of fear, then you are going to constantly feel like you need to protect your energy from a place of fear. But if we're saying, no, I'm going to raise my vibration up so that I don't need to worry about anything because it's no longer going to be a vibrational match for me, then you can already feel how much more empowered that feels, right?
Yeah, and that's why the discernment piece is so important. How do you feel? How do I feel? It's the most important question we can ever ask ourselves. And we need to be doing that check-in all the time, because then we're going to start to see patterns. We're going to see patterns that take us out of our normal form and our frequency, and others that really draw us in and harmonize us.
And lean towards what serves us.
Were we talking about seeing ourselves as geometric symbols the other day, or shapes?
No, I don't think so.
No,
Someone else.
That's been shown to me, seeing myself as this unique geometric pattern. And then they've shown me, my guides have shown me, when other forces or people come in, how much that distorts me. And then when they go away, it brings me back. And so, the more I'm in my own frequency and taking care of my energy and not being upset because someone else is upset, right? Because this is a hard one for empaths, right? And for old souls.
And I think that's why empaths feel they need protection, but we really, really collectively need to flip this around. We really do. It's more about strengthening your frequency, being strong in your sovereignty as a sovereign being, your own identity, being really strong, empowering. This is the big switch in the collective at the moment. And as soon as you sort of talk to people about that, it feels so right, doesn't it? Rather than feeling like we need to protect our space, protect our homes, protect our energy. No, we just need to really change that as our core belief that no, we don't need to do that. We just need to strengthen our own energy fields. And with that, there are things that we can do, especially when you don't feel that, when you are still working through a lot of shadow work and low vibrational energies, and you're shifting. I totally understand that we do need to feel like I'm going to do a nice meditation for everybody at the end so we can feel in our energy, because I think you do need it when you're at that point. Sometimes we do just feel like, no, I just want to seal my energy in, as long as we're looking at it in that way, which is, no, I'm just sealing up my aura. I'm just keeping my energy to myself, and I'm creating a layer between that and everybody else's energy, setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, things like that. That's empowering, not being in fear of other people's dark energy. There's a switch there.
It is, but there's so much in that I kind of want to unpack little bits, because having that boundary is also othering yourself. there is that kind of element that just jumps out at me.
But it's not othering you, because if we start merging, okay, that's like, imagine if we started to blend our energies with absolutely everybody we met. Because yes, we are connected from a higher level in that oneness, but in the third dimension, we are not choosing to connect with everybody, because especially not people who are more experiencing more the third dimension rather than the fifth dimension. This leads into us collectively moving up into the fifth dimension, stronger together. We want to unite with people that are on our vibrational frequency, don't we? We want to unite. And it's not that we're excluding or othering ourselves from everybody else in lower vibrational frequencies, but we are allowed to discern. We don't want to take on negative energy. So I think there's a difference there between discernment and actually, you're not even looking at other people. You're just looking at yourself. This is about self. This is about you looking at your sovereignty as a being.
I still think that needs to be unpicked a little bit, because I think we're hitting on different stages of it. So I think, and I know you do too, right, that we are unique sparks, and we need to find our unique spark and our unique frequency. And when we find our uniqueness, we will start to harmonize with other people, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of protectionism. So is that like the container that helps us feel safe in finding our own unique spark that then will naturally fade? Because we won't need that protection anymore.
Harmonizing. I don't think we're ever protecting. I think this is the whole thing. I think that helps in the beginning when you are really transitioning.
Yeah, so it's stages, isn't it? Yeah. There's stages
of how you imagine it. But I think this is where, when you imagine yourself as not needing protection, that's the core kind of shift. To mentally,
we don't want people to feel like they need protection all the time, and they always have to protect their energy.
No, but then there are situations
that they do need to.
I know, because I know I'm in that stage where I just don't. Not on a general rule, but there still are times when, boundaries are a form of protection, aren't they? Right?
I think it's because we're still in that lower vibrational world, right? That we have to be.
And I think this is, you're saying about, but really we want that connectedness. We don't want the separate. We want the connected. But we're not there yet, are we?
I just want it to be really clear.
But we are all connected through source, and we are all connected, but we don't want to take on other people's energy that is low vibrational. There's a difference there, isn't it? And we have to sort of have that and I think this is actually really important that you brought that up, because I think empaths, we are all very loving and incorporating, and we want everybody, we're very accepting, we want to hear people's stories, and we want to help them. We're so loving because we see that everyone's oneness.
Energy dip. Like when you have a room full of empaths and there's like a little kitten that's hurt its paw, then you feel everyone's energy go down, and it's like, no, let's bring it back up.
I think
everyone's having their own,
aren't they?
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, empaths are just sponging, and bless them. It's because they're so loving. But that's why I think people who are called to the spiritual path are generally empaths. And, in the beginning of the spiritual path, I think, people are always like getting the black obsidian and getting the shungite and protecting their energy. And I feel like there's a phase for that. But then I really try and certainly teach with the Reiki and teach one-to-ones to try and shift out of that mindset of needing protection really quickly, because
that will other them.
It does, yeah. And that's actually not, it's not creating a nice feeling between you and even the person who maybe is giving off the negative energy. We want to transmute that negative energy into love, don't we? We want to become so high vibrational, work on our energy to the point where we can see this from a perspective of that, where that person is coming from with their negativity and their energy, and really see it through the lens of love. That's how to transmute. And that's where you're the stronger vibrational energy. And it doesn't mean you have power over that person in a negative way. It means that you're sending them love back rather than what you're receiving from them, which is, hate, negativity. So rather than sponging that, when you're a force of love and a divine spark and you're in that divinity, you're in that sovereignty, of love and oneness with the all, but the truth of the all, right? So not picking up on negative collective energies, we're moving towards other dimensional energies, the fifth dimensions and above, which are beautiful and loving and high vibrational. And that's the energy that we want to embody and hold through our day-to-day lives, and seal that energy in, so that when we come across anybody else who is in a lower vibrational frequency through no fault of their own, it's their path, we can come from a place of overflow, that we know that we can transmute whatever darkness is coming towards us and send it back with love to help them. And then we become part of the change, you know?
The way I see it is with those negative or that kind of the distortion energy. Yeah. I see it helps us harmonize ourselves even more, because it shows us what we don't want. And in that way, it is a note in this huge orchestra of life. And it needs to currently be there to help elevate us and bring us up. So I think it should, it's always worth saying thank you for showing me that, because I don't ever want to be distorted like that again, because you've shown me my own tune, my own unique frequency.
Yeah, and it's about, let's talk about how it feels though when we do pick up energy from other people we've described like the higher state and being in that place. And I think there's times when we feel in that place, and I'm sure people watching will be like, yeah, I know when I feel like that and I can give back from love. And then there are other times when your vibration dips for whatever reason, and it could be that you're tired or you're spreading yourself too thin, you're not working on your energy. And then how does that feel? How do we know when we're picking up distorted energy or lower vibrational frequencies? Well, we can feel drained and tired. We get brain fog,
impatience,
short-tempered, frustration, all those lower vibrational frequencies.
We're not present, are we?
And we're not being loving either, or patient
to ourselves
kindness.
or anyone else.
No. And so I think it's having that level of awareness to say, okay, I need to look at my energy, because I know that I'm not giving back with love. I'm being short-tempered, and I'm not handling anybody else's dense energies very well. And what's happening there is you're creating these cords, you're energetically then taking on other people's energy.
Which is where we come to the cords. I've got so many questions to ask you about cords.
Yeah, I think I just really feel called, and that's why we wanted to make it an episode of the podcast. Feel really called to talk to the collective about regularly cutting cords, because I think most people have come across cord cutting. They've had...
Well, let's pretend they haven't.
Okay.
What is a cord?
Okay, yeah,
what would you say a cord is?
You're right. So it's an energetic connection to... It could be to a person, or it could be to a past situation. It could be a place. You could have picked up negative energy from a place. Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? But you can pick up negative energy, or let's say distorted energy that's misplaced anywhere. And I think this comes to energy hygiene. Perhaps we'll rename this episode Energy Hygiene, because it's about maintenance, maintaining your
other subject.
I'm loving this. But I actually prefer that rather than calling this energy protection, because I don't like protection. I don't want to feel like.
And I think that's what I was trying to get at. I was like, but we're othering and using that word protection, aren't we?
Don't
right?
Like it.
No.
But I know people.
So energy hygiene.
Let's call it that. And energy maintenance. And I think, what are you doing to maintain your energy? And even, I know there's going to be a lot of beautiful energy workers listening and watching to this, who know a lot about energy. And I want to ask you guys, what are you doing regularly though? How are you on top of your own energy? Because as empaths, we just slip into doing our work for others. I know I'm the worst at that. And what are we doing regularly to maintain our frequency? And it's, when you're doing energy work, you you raise your frequency whilst you're doing the work for somebody, but it needs to be every day. I know, and it does, and it's so beautiful, and it helps us so much. But even as an energy worker who has regular clients, I'm realizing I need to do this all the time, and it's definitely energetic cords. So even though you're a strong vibration, things still happen, especially if you haven't. And I notice a direct correlation to if I have not been managing and maintaining my energy, it's almost like little tears in your aura that you don't notice are happening.
They are. Exactly. They're little tears in our auric field, and energy leaks out of them. It
leaks out.
And our chakras
and these
can't
cords,
bring it ill in.
by the way, are literally coming through, and then they are attached to you. So it's literally all these little cords are forming.
So and they're formed through the field of our aura, through the tears?
Course, through our interaction with our children, family members. Absolutely, these little cords.
This is cord cutting's quite new to me.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard of it, but I just don't.
And
I've never listened or explored it very much. I know that we've done practices, and I can understand it kind of from that left side of the brain, but gosh, energetically, the cords through the tears of the aura.
So many. And they're being recreated if you're not working on your auric field. And I want everyone to be really honest. Are we working on our energy every day?
My energy yogis hopefully are.
They
know how to sew up their aura, but they don't necessarily know about cord cutting.
Cord cutting.
So interesting.
So I'm going to do a little meditation for everyone today, as a little separate audio for you to take away and do regularly, or whenever you feel called.
That'll be so lovely.
To just dissolve those cords. And I think I'm sure it will come out in the meditation, but they're the words to think when you think about energetic cords, either dissolve or cut. But I prefer dissolve, because I think dissolving means transmute, and it's gone then. Dissolving feels more empowering.
I also see it like some cords are going to be so dense that really...
you might feel like really an effort to cut through
them is almost impossible, because you're cutting through your neural pathways and changing the way your thought and your whole energy kind of reacts to it. So if you're just kind of disintegrating and letting them dissolve, you're just becoming lighter and lighter colors of gray is how I see it. I'm so visual in my understanding of all of this.
Completely. I mean, in energy sessions.
And I think that kind of takes the pressure off that you've just, but I've done the meditation. Why is it not working, Lucy? Like, come on. It's like, because you're dissolving. Keep going. It's that layers, the onion again. Oh no, not the onion.
Keep doing it. Absolutely, because there are going to be some cords that are much thicker.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. Because the relationship has been stronger or more toxic, being really honest,
more to learn from
energy,
it, I guess. There's more
to learn,
that we've
potentially
come to experience and
all sorts of things. But you will not believe the power and the shifts that happen when you start dissolving these cords. Oh my gosh.
And I love that you've got so much experience of that and you've worked with that.
Oh my gosh, so many examples of just how transformational dissolving or cutting cords are. But I just want to share with you as well, Emily, I totally agree. And that's why I feel like I'm feeling called more to dissolving rather than cutting, because sometimes in people, when I'm doing cutting, I feel like a huge axe comes to me because I see
this Japanese sword.
And I remember beautiful Maria, my Reiki master, was like, it could be a feather, it could be a this, that, and the other. And it would be like, for me, it would be what would appear to me would be in direct correlation to how much energy and how big the cord was. And sometimes when you're doing energy work, that can be a bit intimidating. If you're sort of Reiki level 1 or 2, you're like, whoa, big. This energy's too much for me. Whereas I quite like using the violet flame for dissolving energy cords, because it's so transmuting.
I had a beautiful experience with that the other day. I won't go into it here, but that was beautiful. It was my first one where it wasn't elicited. It just came through during a channeled session. It was gorgeous. I saw it like I'd never seen it before. It's just really so beautiful.
Powerful, but super gentle. And like you say, when you're transmuting energy, that's big energy, it's nice to use things like the violet flame, because they're so powerful and you can just hand it over to that rather than you hacking away with an axe. Yes, I think transmutation is the way forward for energy cords.
Do let these come in any way, shape or form, because, before I would have thought of a violet flame as a flame out of a fire. And this was like a swirling kind of vortex-y kind of going back and forth. It was incredible. So how do we know if a cord has been dissolved.
You really feel it. And I think if you don't, like you said, Emily, there's other things to learn from that connection. But I would say you have somebody in your life that you know you have an energetic cord that's unhealthy. I would say you will notice shifts and changes in that connection almost immediately. So just give it time and belief. Still hold that belief. Don't move into doubt. Oh, it's never going to. If you go into it with that's not going to work for me, you're really jamming. you're really casting a completely different spell.
Correct.
And you won't get the outcome. It's just absolutely true because you're not creating the desired outcome. You are creating an undesirable outcome. So it's, belief is so important as well as the energy work. So you have to do the energy work, knowing that it is done and trusting that it is done. And then, and really letting it go and kind of forgetting that you've done the work. And then it's just magical how the connection between you and that person you've done the work with will change in the most unexpected ways. And it's really beautiful to observe that connection change.
So we should
you feel less drained. Another thing would be you feel less drained, less overwhelmed, less tired, because these things drain our energy. Quite often they are connections in our solar plexus. Yeah. And so it really does.
Leaks.
Certainly with, controlling people. I have lots of clients who have people who have been very controlling, and that's, heavy in the collective, this imbalance, a lot of people have been over controlling, massive power and control issue on the planet. And so a lot of people have had their power taken away and feel absolutely dreadful because of these cords that have been allowed to continue and build. And what you notice is this, one person becomes in the victim and the other person is this powerful person. And so once you start working on that, the balance is restored. And it's really amazing how people who were once very dominant and controlling, you see them sort of softening and it's almost like a miracle, really. Comes into harmony. It's really lovely. Yeah. So that's what you notice.
To summarize, let go of the outcome of what's going to come and believe, trust, and we could see it could manifest in other people's behavior changing toward us. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah, and you towards them as well. Okay. Because what we're doing, especially in the solar
patterns, we find maybe we're not thinking of them so much, or we just feel more love towards them. Those sort of things.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. Thank you for bringing that up about thinking about them. Let's just park that for a second. I'm just going to go back to the solar plexus. Thank you. I'm just going to go back to the solar plexus, which is. Remember this power thing. If you're giving, and this could be your children, you're giving so much to your children that you're feeling really depleted. So what you notice is you've got more energy and you're more empowered. And so you're not that kind of passive, victim-y kind of person just going along. You're more assertive yourself. So you said you notice a difference from the person, but it's the change in you. You are stronger and you have more courage. And do you know what I mean? So it really is a change on both. And that's the whole point of it, is it's a change on both sides, because a cord isn't one way. A cord's just not coming from that person to you. You're playing a part in that connection with that person.
That's really important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And through the cord cutting, that will be revealed to you, because you'll observe yourself behaving differently, having more courage, standing up to people, saying no to your children a little bit more, not letting them dictate, setting your boundaries. That's all a lot to do with the cords that are in that sort of solar plexus power area. But don't forget, we have cords in all kinds of areas. But let's just talk a moment on. This has come up recently, and I want to talk on it today, and that is that we can have people attaching to us because of various reasons, and that's their own personal journey. But I've noticed something that's come up with a lot of my clients and myself, and that is that when somebody has whatever negative attachment to you, and so sometimes what it is for whatever reason they are thinking about you, and it might be that that's because they don't like you, they've chosen not to like you, and quite often it can be that they've seen maybe some light in you that they don't have in themselves. It could be whatever reason that they are thinking about you a lot, that can create an energetic attachment to you that you really don't feel like you're participating in at all. But what that's doing is that is affecting your energetic field, and you can be completely unaware of that. Somebody shared with me recently that they were told in an energy session with somebody else that they had an energetic cord attached to them still from when they were 17. This was a grown adult.
I believe that. I think a lot of people do.
And it was so revealing to me.
Because there's childhood.
Things that happened in their childhood. And they can't even remember who this person was. And thank you to that beautiful person who shared with me, because it's inspired me to do this episode today. That was affecting them to whatever degree. And so
but they weren't aware of it.
No. But I want to say that sometimes you will be aware.
But you can't put your finger on it, or?
So it depends how, in so many levels and layers to these attachments.
Fascinating.
And sometimes you don't know until, but it could be that something's just not right with you. But you can take the power in your own hands, and we're going to do the cord cutting in this additional meditation that you'll get with this episode. And this is what I mean by regularly working through, and not just thinking, oh, I've had one cord cut with one person and that's that. There could be all sorts of attachments in your field. So I just want to mention again, somebody being on your mind who you don't want to be on your mind. You've got like no interest in thinking about this person, but they keep springing to your mind. And sometimes as empaths, we think, oh, is it because they're okay? Are they okay, or whatever? But really, for whatever reason, if somebody is springing to your mind and you really don't want that, you're just thinking, I don't know why I'm thinking about that person. If it doesn't feel good, I honestly can guarantee that's what this is. So
this can support you.
This is what it will be, and this is definitely going to help massively support you in detaching. And you might have to do it a few times, and it might be that you need, if it's somebody who you've had a toxic relationship with or something like that, then you may need extra work as well. The Violet Flame's amazing with that, but definitely cord cutting is just going to be part of that healing process.
Can cords be passed down through past lives, in a sense?
That's really interesting. I've not come across it, but I don't see why not.
I'm sure you will when you start exploring the Akashic records. Akashic records.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant. Have you come across it, QHHC?
No, but I feel like that kind of attachment.
Yes, I think I have come across that now. Not with the session that I've carried out, but I think I've heard of that.
I think so. About it now. I think it makes sense, doesn't it? And we're kind of here to finally break that cycle.
Yeah, wow.
I think there's actually a lot of that going on. Actually, I believe that quite strongly. I can sense it. I'm pretty sure.
Super interesting. I love that.
It is.
And how, gosh, you could have an attachment from a bad connection in a previous life. How on earth are you ever going to figure that out in this life? Yeah. You just wouldn't. Come for an Akashic record, and we'll dissolve it there.
Now that you're breaking it down, I think that happens without a doubt, and that's why we have behaviors in this lifetime that we can't explain. Why we're scared of the water, why we're scared of snakes. If we're born with an irrational fear.
Yeah, I don't think I would have seen that as an attachment.
I think it could be.
I think that's more of like an imprint.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Energetic imprint, because it was an experience. I'm thinking
so
more of like
they need to be separate
between
souls that keep repeating themselves in different.
Yeah.
So we probably don't have enough knowledge and discernment because we're only seeing a glimpse of this life and the other life that we've been shown, or that bit of the record, and we don't actually have enough of the whole experience. No,
but I think we could expand it and go into that in a session.
Depends on
how much time?
How ready they are as well. This is so much.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah. So
anyway,
could we cut cords between other people, like between a child and someone else? Like we can as healers. Should we? Should we be
I think that's a really good question. Really good question. I think when you're doing it yourself, you're in control. You do what you feel. And I think anybody would. I think we could trust people to cut their own cords and dissolve. And what you can do is always, if you're doing it yourself, and not necessarily a trusted healer, but many people are healers who tune in, really just trust your discernment. But at the same time, you can just always caveat with the highest good for all. I'm cutting the cords that are for my highest good and the highest good for all. That's like your mantra that you live and breathe by whenever you're doing anything like this. I also want to just add in that I know that you do have to be really careful around, if you're doing it for other people and you're a practitioner, you know this anyway, but I'll just say it anyway. There needs to be extra discernment around cutting cords in the heart, because that's very personal. And if I am guided to cut cords in the heart, I will always, I generally know before I'm doing the session that that's going to come up. My guides normally tell me, and if you're a practitioner, you will get a sense that there's something in the heart because they're talking about relationship or something like that, a past lover or, past partner, something like that. And if it's a cord in the heart, some people aren't ready to let go in the heart, even if they're not with that past partner, and they're very sensitive about cords being cut in the heart. But having said that, there will come a time that they are ready. And I use malachite a lot actually to dissolve connections in the heart, because malachite is quite punchy.
Is that the green?
That's the green. Yeah, and I've done that recently, haven't I? Do you remember I said how powerful? Yeah, oh my gosh, amazing. But you have to be ready for malachite,
so
and you have to be ready for.
That's why it was talking to me today. It wanted to be brought.
Oh, there you go. Oh, let's pretend it's here. Yeah. So malachite is amazing for that. But, I notice people get really, repelled by malachite. And I did come across a situation once with a lovely lady, just in kind of a very open situation. We were doing a little course together, and she was like, I can't even look at this one. It was about crystals, and she was like, I can't even look at that one. And I was like, that's malachite. A lot of people get repelled by it. And at the same time, she's telling me, I've literally just broken up with my boyfriend.
Okay.
And so she wasn't ready to let go of that. She was just accepting that it was over. She was nowhere near ready to do the cutting of the cords and the real separation with malachite. She was far too fresh. She couldn't even have it near her. She was like, I don't know what this crystal is, but I don't want to look at it. I don't want it near me, because it's a strong ending. It's if you have heart healing and you're ready to let go of it, malachite will help you do that, but you have to be ready. So yes, cords around the heart and relationships and things like that. Just always ask for permission from whoever you're doing it for, and also if it's for yourself, be prepared that it's an ending and you're letting it go. And I'm sure at that point you'll be there for a reason and you're ready. And when you're ready, you're ready. And it's amazing for just really just getting that finished and a line under it. It's incredible. And I advise people to do that really when they're ready. Yeah. It's a good thing to just move into acceptance.
And I guess the cord will never get properly cut until they are ready, because they'll keep holding that. No,
and that's fair enough.
Keep holding that connection to it.
Yeah, which is lovely. But then, it's how, especially people with past relationships, it's like, how is that serving you to hold on anymore?
Well, I'm just thinking of it as someone that will come and say, I don't want to be disabled anymore, but I don't want to let go of my disabled badge because I like where I can park.
Wow, that's an amazing.
That's kind of just how it popped in. So it's just like, well, no, I don't want them to think of me anymore, but I do like the attention.
Yes.
So
you're so right that we do hang on to these things when we just don't need to. And but it takes.
But I think people are moving more to that place of just like, I want to be free. I want to fly. I don't want anything to hold me back.
Yeah, my love.
And more joy frequencies.
Yeah, and I think it's time that people saw that really for what it was, and see how that's really tethering you.
Yes,
these cords are tethering. So let's see them as cords, as tethering us, not bringing anything to us. They're really not. It's bringing some kind of level of comfort.
I think so. Yeah, because energy will flow in its own rhythms, right? And it will have its own flows, and to make it into new flows can be hard sometimes.
But I also think with these connections and rhythms, exactly, that if you want to move forward and make new connections and new friendships, works so potent for friendships, cutting the cords with friends that are draining you, and we think that, don't know about you, but
there's a mental construct around that as well. Is that
failure?
Is that,
you've got to be friends with people for life? Really? Have we?
Yeah, people
I used to
change.
believe that. I used to believe that because you went to school with somebody, you have to be friends with them forever. I used to feel really bad about moving away from friendships.
Gosh, talk about energy drains.
Well, I was drained. But, exhausted, my mum will tell you. Because I just gave to friendships far too much. But I had no level of awareness of that. No level of awareness that that's what I was doing. So when you learn
I'm so glad you do now.
Oh my God.
I'm so glad you do now.
I'm glad we all do. And I think that's why it's a topic that we need to share. Because this is when you don't need protection. You don't feel like you need protection. You've dissolved these cords and you're in your little own energetic field. Yeah, you're topping yourself up.
You're happy with yourself, aren't you?
You're good. And you can give to people with overflow rather than in this toxic, draining, energetic cord way.
Because equally you'll pull yourself out and go to nature when you need to be topped up. And you're not going to be looking for that from anyone else either. That cord's not going to give you kind of maybe something that you thought you knew that was comfortable.
Which, let's talk about this. So codependent relationships.
Think of all the new cords you're going to be making with nature.
Exactly. New cords with nature. Letting go of codependency. That needs to be cleared from the collective as far as I'm concerned. Codependency is not healthy.
Well, I think that will have to be a topic for another
Yes, I think
day,
so. Yeah, let's
do
that. Yeah, let's do that.
Gosh.
Yeah, so there we are.
Fantastic. Yeah. Gosh. Okay. So we've covered why we should cut cords and can we cut cords for our family? Can we cut cords for our family?
Yes, absolutely. It's
but like a child. Could we cut a cord between our child and someone else?
On behalf of them?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get to.
I do. Because I'm an energy worker. So would I? I would probably.
But you'd be caveating it with their highest good.
I would be.
And you wouldn't be doing that over like a boyfriend situation where their hearts are broken necessarily at the beginning. I would refer
that situation to an energy worker who knows what they're doing with energy. I'm going to be real there. I just think there's so much
it's really important
an individual can do. But there's another level where I think it needs to be held properly and managed properly. We're talking about energy here. I'm a protocol girl. I'm a protocol girl. You know me.
Good,
I would want that to be managed and handled.
Good.
With the highest level of intention for everybody, for the good
integrity
of all.
Is so important.
And when you're talking about your children, you're biased.
Well, exactly. So, that's why I was kind of asking this question. I don't want people to think, I could do this for anyone. There is that level of discernment that I think we need to have here.
100%. But I just want to say, people do. I do that on behalf of people all the time for them, for their children. I've done it recently in a healing session.
But you've gone through that protocol and you haven't been the mother.
Not the mum. The mum comes to me and books the session and I do it over distance. So it's just amazing. It's a beautiful way of helping people, I have to say. And a beautiful gift to give to your children to have that managed. And then, then it can kind of like, I've noticed this with my child. Can I give an example?
Of course you can.
My child and a teacher. And it was a real toxic relationship that had been forming. And it was really heartbreaking. You remember this a few weeks ago. It wasn't that long ago, actually, maybe a month ago. And it was really came to a head. It was awful. And, I could see what was happening. But it was still felt very personal because it was my child.
And raw.
And very raw and horrible. But I could see that this teacher was just getting in a rut with it. The cord was building, the toxicity, the negative energy between the two of them had just got, I want to use that word again, distorted.
Yeah,
their connection was really super distorted. It's a really good way of saying it without toxic, because I go to the word toxic, which isn't quite right. So yeah, it was very distorted between the two of them. And I could see it was just ping-ponging back and forth, and they just weren't getting out of that cycle. And
it was building momentum, if anything.
It really, really was. And it, one not understanding the other was the running theme. And the school were amazing and did absolutely brilliant things, but I just felt like, what can I do? And I dropped into a healing session for her and was shown that they had a cord that needed working on. So transmuted all of the energy around that. And, obviously the school had stepped in and done their part as well. But all of a sudden, I remember asking my daughter, how's things going? This was within a week of, it being a very, very very difficult situation, and my daughter not wanting to go to school. That's how much she was in fear of this teacher and really upset. And then within a week, and I've got to say it was after this session that I did, but I know the school did a lot too. But within a week, I was so worried about sending her in. I said, how sorry that you had to be in the class, you know, with this teacher that you were petrified of. How did it go? And she was like, yeah, fine. She sat with me. We're getting on really well.
She was so laid back about it, wasn't she?
And I was like, what? And now they're absolutely fine.
It's incredible.
And there were a lot of interventions in between when it wasn't fine. It really just it wasn't working. Like, and then all of a sudden, boom, just something shifted. And I just can't help but think it was the energy of the cord that was cut. So, you know, I really do believe in the power of this. And to see that happen was such joy, and never heard anything about it since.
So how do these cords
such a turnaround?
How do these cords even form then?
Well, I think like we're saying, it's the energy coming through, you know, words and intentions. And don't forget, people aren't, we're not all working on our energy.
Though, surely.
Yeah, and a misunderstanding. But then I would say, you know, with the teacher scenario, she's got some issues, and my daughter was triggering her. I won't go into it, but that's what was happening. And so take this to a friendship
and then
thing.
that starts to build and the wave gets momentum and then the cord starts getting built. I'm just trying to think of it kind of on a...
It's triggering something in someone. Someone's triggering something in the other, and then it's like coming back and forth.
It just builds and builds and builds,
and builds.
Yeah. But thank you for sharing. That was really open and honest, and I think helps people understand it and put it into context as well.
Because it's real life, you know, it happens all the time. But this is, and also let's just look at the fact
that it's so practical as well, that you could use it in that situation, isn't it? And instead of feeling unempowered and not knowing how to help your child.
That's exactly how I felt.
You know, and that's so frustrating.
It was horrible. It's a really awful situation.
What a wonderful way of being able to turn it around and just bring things literally back into harmony again, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And that's why I use the violet flame, because that is transmutive and harmonizing. And they're the frequencies. You know, it's not about get this horrible teacher away from my child. You know, it's not done in that energy. It's done with love and understanding that, you know, something isn't working between the two energies, you know, and it's all done with love. And that's where you find the harmony at the other side of doing that work. So, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Wonderful.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for that.
I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Em.
Gosh, now we get to practice a bit of this in real time. So,
yes. Okay. So we'll say goodbye for the episode, and then I'm going to come jumping on and do an audio, which will be a lovely meditation to help you really sort of you can manage your own energy, seal yourself in a bubble of light, and just dissolve any cords that are in your aura, any attachments, anything that's ready to go, not in alignment, anything that's tethering you down, so that you can raise your frequency and flow through your day in a beautiful high vibrational energy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time. Lots of love and joyful blessings. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you want to work with us directly, see the show notes below. Thank you.